July 14, 2017, 6:42 p.m. Burbank, California. The sun is still hanging over the Warner Bros. Lot, turning the glass walls of the executive building into sheets of gold. Inside, the air smells like polished wood and fresh contracts. A stack of papers sits at the center of a long conference table, thick, heavy, deliberate, 8 films, 10 years. A projected global box office north of $200 million per installment. At the head of the table sits one of the most bankable actors in Hollywood. Not a newcomer, not a desperate breakout, an A-list name with awards on the shelf and leverage in the room. Agents call him steady, studio heads call him reliable, audiences call him unforgettable. The executive across from him slides the contract forward. "This will define the next decade," she says, calm but firm. "We're building the future of the franchise around you." Outside the window, you can see tourists taking pictures by the water tower. Inside, the silence feels louder than applause. The numbers are staggering, a guaranteed payday in the hundreds of millions over time. Back-end points, global premieres, action figures, theme park integration, cultural immortality. And yet he doesn't reach for the pen. Because what sits in front of him isn't just a contract, it's a cage with velvet lining. You can almost feel the weight of it, the schedule blocks already penciled in, the physical transformation clauses, the exclusivity windows that would quietly prevent him from taking smaller, riskier films. 8 pictures, minimum, with options to extend. 10 years of being the same face. 10 years of being the brand. This is the dream. For most actors, this is the summit, but for him, something feels off. The executive continues, "We're locking the world in, this character is the future." But what if the future becomes a ceiling? He's seen it happen before, a respected actor reduced to a single role, a nuanced performer flattened into a Halloween costume, a career that slowly bends towards spectacle until there's nothing else left. Franchises don't just build stars, they brand them. And branding in Hollywood can quietly replace identity. His agent squeezes his shoulder, a subtle signal. This is generational security. This is protection against irrelevance. This is insulation from the volatility of an industry that forgets people overnight. But he's not thinking about money. He's thinking about time. He's thinking about creative oxygen. He's thinking about what happens when audiences stop seeing him and only see the character. The meeting stretches past 7:30, assistants refill water glasses, the contract remains unsigned. "Can I have the weekend?" he asks. A pause, not hostility, just surprise. This is not how these meetings usually end. Most actors leap. He walks out into the warm California evening without committing to the role that could make him untouchable. Or unmovable. By Monday morning, Hollywood will start whispering. But the real decision isn't about a movie. It's about control. And control in Hollywood is rarely given twice. Saturday, 9/18, Malibu, California. The ocean is restless, gray waves folding into themselves under a quiet sky. He's sitting alone on the balcony of a rented house overlooking the Pacific, contract in his lap, highlighter uncapped but untouched. No entourage, no assistants. Just the sound of wind and the dull thud of waves hitting rock. This is where the real negotiations begin. Not with the studio. With himself. You have to understand the timing. He is not struggling. His last film opened #1, critics still treat him seriously, directors still return his calls. He is in that rare pocket of Hollywood where commercial success and artistic credibility overlap. That overlap never lasts forever. He flips to page 47. Exclusivity clause. Any competing studio tentpole requires approval. Independent productions must fit between franchise shooting blocks. Press obligations locked in across 3 continents annually. On paper, it looks manageable. In reality, it's suffocating. Franchises don't just consume time, they consume identity. Physical preparation begins months before cameras roll. Press tours stretch across time zones, reshoots interrupt vacations, marketing appearances demand repetition, same answers, same stories, same persona. You wake up and realize your face belongs to the machine. He's seen colleagues disappear into it. At first, it's exhilarating, the red carpets, the global adoration, the numbers. Then slowly the scripts that arrive start looking smaller, safer, similar. Studios no longer ask what range you have, they ask how well you can maintain the brand. And if the franchise dips, if one installment underperforms, the machine looks for someone else. The risk isn't just being overexposed. It's being replaceable. He thinks about a conversation he had 2 years earlier with an Oscar-winning actor who warned him quietly over dinner, "The money is great. The first 3 years are thrilling. By year 7, you're negotiating with your own shadow." He didn't understand it then. He does now. Creative stagnation doesn't happen overnight, it happens slowly, invisibly. You become too valuable to experiment. Too expensive to fail. He sets the contract down and stares at the horizon. There's another layer here, psychological fatigue. Blockbusters are endurance sports, the body becomes product. The image becomes commodity, every fluctuation becomes headline material, your absence becomes suspicious, your aging becomes narrative. 10 years of that. He asks himself a question most actors never dare to ask at their peak. What happens if I step back now while I still can? In Hollywood, constant visibility equals power, that's the rule. Stay present, stay relevant, stay trending. But what if absence could create a different kind of power? He picks up his phone, scrolls through past headlines, red carpet photos, interviews. There's a pattern forming. He's being framed as inevitable. And inevitability is the beginning of typecasting. By Sunday evening, he calls his agent. "Everyone will think I'm insane," the agent says carefully. "Maybe," he replies, "or maybe I'll still be here in 15 years. Silence. This isn't rebellion, it isn't ego, it isn't ingratitude. It's restraint. On Monday morning, when he walks back into that executive office, the decision won't just surprise the studio. It will quietly test an unspoken law of Hollywood. Does the industry chase those who are always available? Or those who are? And once he says the words, there will be no rewind button. Monday 10:03 a.m. back on the studio lot. The hallway feels narrower this time. Assistants glance up as he walks past. There's an unspoken assumption in the building that today is procedural, a handshake, a photo, maybe even a quiet toast. Inside the conference room, the same contract waits in the same spot, neatly aligned, confident. The studio president smiles, ready to build something historic. He takes his seat, folds his hands, no theatrics. "I'm grateful," he begins, and he means it, "but I can't commit to the full slate." The air changes. It's subtle, a tightening. The executive blinks. "You mean scheduling adjustments?" "No," he says calmly, "I'm stepping away." There it is. Not renegotiating, not posturing for more money, not leveraging for producer credit. Walking away. You can almost feel the math recalculating across the table. Marketing plans, release calendars, investor expectations, franchise arcs built around his image. This isn't just casting, it's infrastructure. "Can we ask why?" someone says carefully. He chooses his words with precision. "I don't want the next decade of my career to belong to one character, I need space to evolve." It's the kind of sentence that sounds reasonable until you measure the financial implications. $200 million across projected installments, cultural saturation, merchandise, immortality in multiplexes. Most actors fight to be irreplaceable within a franchise. He is choosing to be replaceable before the machine decides for him. The meeting ends politely, no doors slammed, no headlines yet. But by noon the calls begin. Other studios are confused, his representatives are fielding quiet concern. Is this a negotiation tactic? Is there conflict? Is there something they don't know? In Hollywood, declining power is suspicious. Because the system runs on escalation, bigger role, bigger budget, bigger exposure. He has just disrupted the algorithm. And disruption makes people nervous. Over the next week, the franchise announces a creative pivot, a new direction, a fresh face. Publicly, it's seamless. Privately, it's seismic. Casting agents start whispering about leverage. Other A-list actors begin asking different questions before signing multi-picture deals. Agents quietly push for flexibility, clauses they never would have requested before. Something has shifted. Not because of outrage. Because of absence. He doesn't give interviews explaining his choice. He doesn't post cryptic messages. He doesn't leak grievances. He disappears. For 6 months there are no paparazzi shots, no casting rumors, no convention appearances. In an industry addicted to presence, he chooses silence. At first the narrative spins without him. Difficult. Overthinking. Missed opportunity. But then something unexpected happens. Directors who had once assumed he was unavailable start sending scripts directly. Smaller projects, character studies, uncomfortable roles that would never survive inside a franchise schedule. He reads them slowly, carefully. The power dynamic has inverted. When you are constantly visible, the industry controls your momentum. When you step back voluntarily, momentum has to chase you. And that chase begins to reshape perception. Because now, every project he considers feels deliberate. Intentional. Curated. The audience starts asking a different question. Not what franchise is he in, but what is he choosing next? And that question changes everything. But the real transformation won't happen on a red carpet. It will happen in the quiet months that follow, when the absence hardens into strategy. January 22, 2018, 5:11 p.m. Sundance Film Festival, Park City, Utah. Snow crunches under boots. Camera flashes burst against a dark mountain sky. Inside a modest theater, no superhero banners, no franchise logos, his name appears in small white letters during the opening credits of an intimate drama shot in 23 days. No press circus, no global livestream. Just a story about a fractured father trying to rebuild trust. When he steps onto the stage after the screening, the applause is different. It's not explosive, it's sustained, thoughtful, earned. You can see it in the audience's posture. They're leaning forward, not reaching for their phones. This wasn't the safe move. But it was the strategic one. By declining the franchise, he didn't shrink his presence, he refined it. For months, executives had assumed his value came from scale, massive budgets, global distribution, tentpole gravity. But scale isn't the only currency in Hollywood. Scarcity is. When an actor is everywhere, they become familiar. When they vanish, they become anticipated. That anticipation builds pressure in reverse. Studios begin asking what will bring him back to the screen, what story is worthy. His absence has raised the bar. Behind closed doors, talent agencies are adjusting their language. Multi-picture deals are now accompanied by exit flexibility, shorter commitments, creative windows, sabbatical allowances. No one publicly credits him. But the recalibration is real. Because he proved something quietly radical. Power doesn't only come from attaching your name to the biggest machine in town. It can come from refusing the machine entirely. Psychologically, the shift is even more profound. For the first time in years, his calendar isn't mapped 5 summers ahead. There's breathing room, space to develop, time to say no without panic. You can almost feel the decompression. Actors rarely admit this, but franchise life compresses time. Your body becomes a long-term asset. Your schedule becomes corporate property. Aging becomes a strategic conversation. Now he chooses projects that don't require him to freeze himself in myth. He gains weight for one role, ages naturally for another, plays flawed, unmarketable characters. And critics respond. The narrative begins to pivot. Not he turned down the franchise, but he's entering a new phase. That phrase matters. Because in Hollywood, phases imply control. Meanwhile, the franchise moves on, a new lead steps in, the marketing machine restarts, box office numbers fluctuate, not catastrophic, not legendary. Just normal. And that normality reinforces something subtle. The role didn't make him powerful. His choice did. You can see it in interviews now. When journalists ask about long-term commitments, he smiles carefully. I'm interested in momentum, he says, not permanence. It's a quiet philosophy, but it travels. Other major figures begin spacing out projects. Some take year-long breaks between releases, others negotiate limited series formats instead of decade-long arcs. The industry doesn't revolt against franchises. It rebalances around autonomy. And suddenly, stepping back doesn't look risky. It looks disciplined. But discipline has a cost. Because staying visible guarantees relevance. Stepping away gambles on memory. The question hovering in the background isn't whether he protected his future. It's whether audiences will still choose him when he returns to a larger stage. And that answer is coming sooner than anyone expects. May 3rd, 2022, 8:27 p.m. Cannes Film Festival, Palais des Festivals. The Mediterranean air is warm, flashbulbs crackle like distant fireworks, but this time the noise feels different. He hasn't walked a carpet this large in years. No franchise logo towers behind him. No cinematic universe branding stretches across the press wall. Just the title of a mid-budget psychological thriller directed by a filmmaker known for intensity, not spectacle. As he steps onto the red carpet, the crowd surges, not because he's overexposed, but because he's been missed. You can feel it in the energy, anticipation instead of saturation. This is the return on restraint. For 5 years, he chose carefully one indie drama, a limited series, a supporting role in a historical epic that required transformation instead of repetition. He let the market cool around him. And cooling creates hunger. Inside the theater, the premiere unfolds in heavy silence. The film is demanding, no easy hero moments, no applause lines engineered for trailers. His character is fragile, morally conflicted, aging in real time. When the credits roll, the standing ovation lasts 6 minutes. Not because he disappeared. Because he returned differently. That distinction matters. In Hollywood, overexposure erodes mystique, but calculated absence rebuilds it. Studios begin circling again, this time with different offers, prestige projects, producer credits, creative partnership, not contractual captivity. The power dynamic has shifted permanently. Before they offered him security. Now they offer him respect. There's a quiet scene later that week, no cameras, no reporters, where a streaming executive floats the idea of a high-concept limited series. 6 episodes, full creative control, no sequel obligations. 5 years earlier, that executive might have insisted on expansion potential, spin-offs, crossovers. Now the pitch is different. "We want you," she says, "not the franchise version of you." That sentence is the real victory. Because what he protected wasn't just schedule flexibility. It was authorship. Psychologically, something else has changed too. He no longer chases scale to maintain relevance. The fear of fatting, of being replaced, has loosened its grip. When you voluntarily step away and survive it, you dismantle the industry's most powerful leverage, scarcity anxiety. You prove that visibility is not the same as influence. Influence, it turns out, compounds quietly. The younger actors watching this unfold take notes. Some renegotiate long-term deals, others insert strategic pauses into their trajectories. Publicists start framing career gaps as curated recalibration instead of absence. The vocabulary evolves. And Hollywood adjusts. Not because one actor rebelled loudly, but because he declined quietly. The $200 million he left behind becomes a footnote. The franchise continues without him, as franchises always do. But his career, it expands sideways instead of forward in a straight line. He directs. He produces. He mentors. He chooses. That's the word that lingers. Choose. In an industry built on chasing what's offered, he redefined power as the ability to decline. And now, years later, when he walks into rooms, the question isn't whether he needs the project. It's whether the project deserves him. That inversion changes everything. Because the true career-defining moment wasn't signing a historic contract. It was sliding it back across the table. And proving that sometimes, the boldest move in Hollywood isn't saying yes. It's knowing when to disappear.